Hello, I'm Richard Lowe, the Writing King, and I'm a ghostwriter, which means that I write books for people that bring out the best in them, that promote their brand, and that help them in their business and personal lives.
You're watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration, where we share interviews with incredible leaders who are crushing it in life and business.
Hey, welcome back to Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. I'm on the show here with Richard Lowe, again, the Writing King. Richard, what made you decide to transition from a 33-year career in IT and tech, even working with Trader Joe's and some large companies, to become a ghostwriter?
Well, I'd always enjoyed writing ever since I wrote a book for my grandfather who was in World War II. He was a hero in World War II. Did the Bataan Death March, all kinds of things, the POW camp for 4 years. I was only 17, had my eyes open to a world that was like, whoa, and got to know my grandfather. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I had to make a living, had a family, the whole thing. So put it off. And finally got in my 50s, said, you know what? I want to go out on my own. So I procrastinated like we all do. And then finally one day I said, okay, it's time to go, and quit my job. Had a huge party with all my model friends that I was a photographer. So had like 100 models and dancers come 2 days in a row. We just had a huge party. And then got in the car with another dancer friend who didn't want me to be alone on the trip. And we took the trip across LA, and I wound up in Florida. And then I started writing, started with LinkedIn profiles, and then went and joined a small ghostwriting company. And that's a whole story on its own. And then finally decided I can do this. I don't need somebody else. Next day, I had $25,000 in contracts. So, yep, I can do this. And there you go.
And that's incredible. And I know you do all kinds of different writing, whether that's for business ghostwriting, entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, business leaders who are trying to leave a mark. And then you also do some legacy ghostwriting, which I want to get into later. But if you're somebody listening to the show right now that is you've had a great career, you'd love to publish a book, you'd love something to have laying on the coffee table years from now that your grandkids could look at, this might be a great thing to get connected with Richard and just kind of check out what he can do for you. What are some of the common misconceptions about ghostwriting? Or maybe tell me what ghostwriting is first and then the misconceptions.
Of course. Ghostwriting is where I write a book, say, for you. So you would come and you'd engage with me. We'd have a talk. You'd hire me, and I interview you and do some research because you're the knowledge expert. I'm not the knowledge expert. I don't read minds. That's not yet. And then I take that knowledge and I create a book out of it. I have a little bit of a unique slant in that I just don't create a book. What I do is I interview for feelings, emotions, voice. I don't want just a book. Anybody can write a book. AI can write a book. I want a book that resonates with your audience, with what you want to get out of it, meet your goals, meet your audience's goals, has some emotions in it. Each chapter ends on an emotion. The book ends on an emotion. Like you might want the book to end with political book. You might want them to be angry at the end, or you might want them to be motivated. In an entrepreneurial book, you might want them to be motivated to now achieve some goals. A coaching book, you want them to be
call to action that you've put in the book, maybe to monetize the book.
It'd be a call to action, but the whole book leads up to it. And that's unique, I think, for most ghostwriters.
Now, I had somebody one day, I've been a guest on 183 podcasts in 90 days, just as
wow.
Talking about throwing mud to see what sticks. That was something I did a while back just to test how, what kind of leads can you get from podcasting? One of the things that I had one of the hosts mentioned is they were asking me some questions and they said, now they talk about somebody being an expert, but you literally wrote the book on the subject. And I thought, man, if I was a ghostwriter or sold writing services, I would sell that as my tagline going, if somebody's looking for an expert on Google, if they're Googling something and you show up as the author of the book on the subject that they're looking for the question, or that they're looking for the answer to, I mean, is that something you think is that a big reason clients come to you is to be seen as the authority in that industry?
That's exactly why most of them come to me. My main audiences are executives or coaches. Executives want to pivot their career usually to get a promotion, get TED Talks. Coaches want to have that extra boost that takes them to go over the edge. Because in the economy today, a lot of people are becoming coaches and it's swamped. How do you get above everybody else? So yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
One of the things too, with social media, everybody on the internet, I talked to, I was a guest on a kid's show. One of the podcast hosts 15-year-old kid. He had just turned 15. He was hosting his own podcast, and he had paid for some kind of a course. So just turned 15, and he's now a certified life coach. And he was a sharp little guy, but at 15 years old, there's not much life experience where you can say, hey, I'm a life coach. Let me help you with your problems, Mr. 40, 50, 60-year-old person.
Right.
At 15 years old. But writing a book, again, as far as a coach, if I was looking to hire a coach and I go through the list of them, and there's, I've got 10 different coaches that have got expertise or say that they're the expert in that subject. The person who's wrote a book or 2 or 5 of them on the subject that I'm needing help with is almost always going to be the person that I hire. Is that something to do as far as marketing? Like maybe we've got a lot of authors that read this, or that read the magazine, watch the show. Do you help with editing and promotion as well? Any kind of coaching or anything like that?
I'm not a book marketer, and I contract with people to do that stuff. So if you came to me, I would be the ghostwriter, and then I have an additional add-on package that I manage the whole process from beginning to end. So I would help you with your audiobook. I'd help you with publishing your book. I'll help you with finding a book promoter, finding an editor, and interfacing with those people, because you're getting a team together now, and you're a busy executive or a coach trying to run your business. You don't have time for all this. And there's a lot of moving parts to publishing a book. I help with that as part of that package. And you can, if you've already got a book, you can get the package, or if you hire me as a ghostwriter, you can get the package, and then you don't have to worry about it at all, other than the occasional conversation of, is this what you want, or discussions. It becomes not your problem, which is ideally what you want in somebody you hire, right? You want it to be not your problem anymore.
Absolutely. Now with the magazine, with Newswire magazine, we've been around since 1997. I bought the company in 2018, but with us, there's all kinds of FTC required legal disclaimers. So when there's a sponsored ad, you have to have the disclaimer that says it's sponsored. As a ghostwriter, is that something where, could I hire you to write a book for me about whatever topic? You have to legally disclose that it was written by a ghostwriter?
No. Unless your particular industry says that, you don't. I don't think I've ever been disclosed as a ghostwriter on the cover. I've had a few in the acknowledgments, and usually they acknowledge me as their coach or as their assistant or something, so I'm there and I can use it as promo. But there's no, most of your celebrities, most of your politicians, Hillary Clinton, for example, ghost wrote their books. They didn't write those books. Obama probably wrote it, ghost wrote it. All of the celebrities, they're not writers, they're celebrities. So they hire ghostwriters, and they pay a lot. I've had one book where I wrote for a rock star, a pretty famous one. That was an interesting assignment, to say the least, working for somebody who's a high-end rock star. And it was interesting. It was fun.
And now, what does somebody like a rock star get out of publishing a book if if they're known for music and they're not being asked questions about how to become a rock star? What's the purpose of them writing a book?
Well, it was a fiction book. It was a novel, and it was part of his branding. And he enjoyed writing. He wanted to do it himself, but he just didn't have the time because he was everywhere. He's one of those guys who's here and there and here and there. He's like all over the place. He tired me just talking to him. He made me tired, and it was fun. I learned a lot from him. Like you can achieve your goals. He's a relatively young for a rock star, and he set his mind to something, and he did. He was actually, built part of his house himself, for example, and did all kinds of cool stuff. And it was very motivating, just listening to him and helping him write his book. But he was the kind of guy, his hands were in it the whole time. Also, it was funny, like, oh, let's just write this together,
Nice. Now, do you prefer working with somebody who is 100% hands off, where they just want you to write it and slap their name on it? Or do you prefer working with somebody that's kind of really paying attention to the details and making sure everything is exactly the way they want it?
It depends. The ones I've done books like, okay, I want to write about this technical subject. We do 1 interview, 2 interviews, and he said, okay, fine. It's your book now. Have fun with it. Give it to me when you're done. That's a little bit scary because you deliver this book that you spent months and months writing, and geez, you're going to like it? He hasn't even read it yet. And And then there's the book where we're together every single day for an hour a day writing that book together. So it's all both ends of the spectrum and everything in between. And I don't mind all of that as long as it's a good relationship. It's all about the relationship. That's one thing I tell my pre-clients, the clients before they come to me, is whether you choose me or not, the thing that you need to make sure of is the relationship is good. If it's not good, you're not going to get a good product. I'm going to make sure it's a good relationship if you go with me. But other ghostwriters may not. And experience counts and other things count, but the relationship is probably by far the most important thing that you need to consider.
Now, when you're looking, besides relationship, if somebody's looking at a ghostwriter, I know your prices are not, you're not aiming for the bottom of the barrel person who's trying to get the cheapest deal. But if somebody's comparing, if they're looking at 5 different ghostwriters and you're in the top 1 or 2 highest priced, a lot of people don't realize when they're shopping, going, okay, the guy that is spitting out a ghostwritten book for $1,500, that's going to be pretty much all AI. And he's not even taking the time to really edit it real well. Typically, and you hear people say, you can go in and tell ChatGPT to write you an article outline or a chapter outline for the book. Okay, now write chapter 1, write chapter 2, and you can have ChatGPT spit you out an entire book. And I actually saw somebody selling a course on this, on how to let ChatGPT. You paid them $49 for the course. They teach you how ChatGPT can write a book for you. It was just a matter of asking questions. But what's the difference between somebody paying for a $1,500 ghostwriter versus your service that's not $1,500?
Let me put that in a different way. In robotics, there's a term called the uncanny valley. And the uncanny valley means, so there's this humanoid robot there, and you look at it, you think it looks like a human, but something in the back of your mind says there's something wrong. You see it in CGI all the time. Lion King, the new one, the remake. Something's wrong with that movie, but you don't know what it is. The grass is slightly wrong, or the shadows are going in slightly the wrong direction. Or in that one, the characters are too bouncy, so they actually bounce. But you don't notice consciously, but something's wrong with the movie. That's called uncanny valley. Well, it also applies to other things like writing. I had a guy come to me, he gave him a free hour, and he said, here's my book. Let's talk about it. I want to know what I need to do before I publish it. And I said, well, you wrote it with AI. He says, you just opened it. You just spent 2 seconds looking at it. I said, yeah, you wrote it with AI. I can tell. Uncanny valley. And I've looked at enough that I know. And that's a problem because you want to stand out. The other thing, to answer your question even better, that I do is I get the emotions, the feelings, I go to the heart. I get your heart. I give it back, and they put it into your book. And that is something that AI can't do. It probably never can. Get your heart and your spirit and your passion and your goals and everything and put it into that book. Yeah, I can use AI. Actually, I have written a whole book with AI. It's a pain because it wanders and it's really weird. I get your passions, your heart, your soul, your spirit, your leadership, all of that. And I put that into the book so that you have a book that actually resonates with your audience. And we spend a lot of time at the beginning determining who your audience is and what they want and what you want from the book too, so that they met. Because you cannot sell a book to everybody. If your book's not selling, I had somebody ask me, why isn't my book selling? I only sold 50 copies. My audience must be too narrow. And I said, nope, your audience isn't narrow enough. Probably the problem. You're probably trying to market to everybody. So find your audience. And that's one thing I do with them.
Think about in your mind, the person that your absolute perfect client, their age, gender, marital status, the way they vote, their religion, the number of kids, the name of their dog. Talk to that exact person about that
Exactly.
one problem about the problem that you can solve perfectly for them. And now other people can jump in and gain something from that. But if you just say, oh yeah, I can help anybody with anything in their life, nobody wants to talk to you.
Yeah, it's to aim the marketing for the book primarily and to aim the way the book is written. Now, for me, that's for getting a client. Once I have a client, say a client wanders along and wants, like happened, they come by and they say, I want a children's book. I'd never written a children's book before. And I said, sure, I'll write it, and learned how to write a children's book and did it. Another one wanted a young adult book that taught young adults the dangers of the internet. Never done one before. But the guy who wrote Goosebumps, the most popular book ever in the history of mankind, other than the Bible series, rather, he wrote a book on how to write those kind of books. Read the book? Yep, it's very different, but wrote a nice book. It was field tested by parents and students and teachers in schools, and they loved it. Except for I used big words because I'm a tech, and I had to fix those. But besides that, they thought this was great. So But normally for marketing the book and writing the book, we want to know who your audience is down to the pinpoint. Because even at the pinpoint, there's going to be thousands and thousands of people to get there. And then you can do the proper writing of the book and the proper marketing. You cannot sell to everybody unless you're Coca-Cola or something. You got billions of dollars to spend. And I'm not sure even they sell to everybody. Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not Coca-Cola. If I had that kind of money, I wouldn't be doing this.
Now, what are the steps that are involved in the ghostwriting process? How do you, I know you do it a little bit differently than a lot of folks do as far as your interview and then turn that into a book.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is the initial engagement. So I talk to people, we decide if we're a match, and then, go through the negotiation, blah, blah, blah. And then, the first thing is now this is for a 60,000, 80,000 word book. It's going to be shorter for a shorter book. Might be 4 weeks of interviews, literally 4 weeks, 5 days a week, an hour a day. And I'm going to interview you for who your audience is, what do you want from the book, what you're trying to get from it, your emotions, your feelings about it, your passions. It's a whole series of a Socratic method, which is I ask questions, you give me the answers. And then from those questions come more questions. So I'm not really evaluating for you. I'm getting your answers. And I come up with a ton of stuff about what your book is. And it's a lot of interviews and it's a lot of information. And what I'm trying to get is to the heart and soul of the book. And once I have that, then we're probably halfway through those interviews, and then I get the rest of the stuff. I'm not interested in the information so much. Writing a book about blockchain, I want to find out about your passions with blockchain. I want to find out why it's important to other people. I want to find out what it can do for them. I want to find out why you got into this business and all these other things, who your mentors were and why they were. All these things help me write a better book for you. They probably help your business too. So that's the first phase. The second phase is we start writing the book, and it's month to month. So I'll set a limit out. Depending on how we do the monthly payments, it might be 10,000 words a month. And I generally try and set the pace at 500 words a weekday. That works out to 10,000 words a month. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. And that we go back and forth doing the revisions. This is my ideal one. We go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until at the end of the month, we've got those 10,000 words pretty well polished. They look pretty good. And then we move on to the next chapter and the next chapter until the book's done. The first chapter primarily, and the second chapter, I'm getting this text so that it's got your voice. This is where I put out a few pages. You send it back to me. That's in my voice. Okay, fine. Let's fix that. So we get on the phone. What's your voice? Send it back. Well, this is better. But still not my voice. Okay, we do that about 3-4 times. Then I got your voice. Had one client. He cursed a lot. I mean, he was a cursey guy. Said, do you want that to be in your voice? Oh, yeah. Expletive, yeah. So we put curse words in there. And then he said, well, that's too much. And we backed off a bit. My goal is by the time we're done with the book's mostly done. Because once it's done, we go into a revision. And there's one revision, sometimes two, allowed with the book. And that's a full revision we go through the whole thing. You the author, would read through it, correct everything, and then I would make the changes. We want to make that as minimal as possible because we don't want to go into what I call revision hell, where we go back and forth, back, forth, back, forth, and back, forth, and the book winds up taking months more. We don't want to do that. So we focus on making that last revision as good as possible. We are not concerned with spelling. We are not concerned with grammar. That's going to an editor. I don't need to worry about that. I mean, obviously I'm going to check spelling and proofread it to my extent, but it's not the top of the mind. I don't want you, the client, I don't want you proofreading your book. I want you to tell me, is the content right? Is it getting your passion across right? Is the voice right? Does it make sense from here to here? And then we'll go into the editor. That's an external person. It's extra cost. The editor will read through it, and it's content editing and called line editing and content editing, where they're going through it line by line and making sure that it makes sense all the way through. And then from there, you need for self-published, you need a book cover, and don't use AI for your book cover, please. Your book's not going to sell. Don't use clip art. Everybody uses the same clip art. Hire an artist. You just spent some money on me. And by the way, you mentioned expensive. I am probably at the mid-level of ghostwriting cost, not the expensive side. There's the celebrity ones who do those are the expensive ones. But you want to get a book cover with an artist, a real artist, a person who draws it. Unless your book's about AI art, that would be a different story. But yeah, you need that. And then you need ISBNs. And this is why you would engage me with the book publishing package to make sure that you all these things are coordinated and you get all the pieces together. There's a lot of pieces. Do you want an audiobook? Do you want it to be spiral bound? Do you want it to be hardcover? Do you want it to be paperback? Do you want it on Audible? Do you want it on Nook? All these things, and they're all different publishing formats. And publishing it through Ingram Spark or Amazon, which go to the same place, you lose certain rights on either one. You need to know that. Do you want to have a movie based on this? You want to have a movie based on this? And then there's other things you might want to do. You've got all these rights. That's self-publishing. And you have traditional publishing, in which case we'll probably write 3 chapters of a book, put it together into a book proposal that goes to an agent. So if you have to sell the proposal to the agent first, the agent says, yeah, this looks marketable, and he'll sell it to publishers. So you're actually marketing the book to an agent. And then once it's accepted, we finish writing the book. That's the normal process for that. And that is a tough process, and it will add 1 to 2 years to your route. If you want to sell copies of the book, that's what your goal is. That's where you want to go. If you want to use your book as a marketing tool or get TED Talks, self-publishing. You don't need to bother with that stuff. And then there's the middle ground, which is hybrid publishing, and that's pay to play. You pay them $10,000, $100,000, whatever, however many dollars it costs. They do everything after the writing. Some of them even do the writing, but I wouldn't go that route. And then you got a book, and then you need to market it. Now, what I tell my clients is start marketing it when you start writing it. Don't wait till the book's published. Publish little blogs, little videos, whatever rings your bell about your journey of writing. Reference me as your advisor, maybe, so then you can tag me, and then I can add to the story. Start marketing it, so that by the time the book's published, you've got thousands and thousands, tens of thousands. You need actually hundreds of thousands of followers, of which maybe 10,000 want to buy that book the day it comes out. Then you have a book launch party. And I know a radio host who was the old 90s radio, B100 FM and KLOS and all those things. He can run those. He's a copywriter. He does those things. He's a genius at this kind of stuff. You hire somebody like him to run it, so you don't have to. Run it for like 3 hours, so it's over time zones. And then sell as many copies of that book as you can, even if you have to discount it on that day or within that week. Amazon uses that first couple of weeks to prime its algorithm. If you miss selling copies in that first couple of weeks, you have to promote it. Amazon basically doesn't know who to promote it to. And then you basically do it. This is an important thing here to make a good little TikTok. The reasons why a book won't sell. Number one, you're not promoting it. If you're not promoting the book, it ain't getting sold unless you've already got a name. I mean, Stephen King publishes a book, he sells 1 million copies that day. Yeah. Or the cover is bad.
But he's still promoting the heck out of it. I mean,
he does.
He's doing all kinds of social media, email blasts, a ridiculous amount of marketing. So
yeah.
Even the folks that are crushing it with books are not. You look at his Twitter following, all that, whatever he's got. He's flooding the market with everything he does. Anytime he's got a new book out. Now that's not an author that I have any interest in reading any of his stuff. But
me neither. He's not my type of book. Yeah. Oh yeah, he promotes it. You do a Harry Potter book, it's going to sell, and you're going to promote it. But if you're a normal person, nobody's going to buy your book unless you promote it. So that's number one. Number two is the cover's bad. That's why I say don't use AI, don't use clip art, don't make it yourself. If the cover's bad, it's not going to sell. And one of the things that makes for a good cover is the size of the title. Remember, that's getting shrunk down to a thumbnail that's read on a smartphone. So you will lose your sales if the cover's bad. And you hire a professional designer for book covers because they know things like women like curly fonts and men like square fonts. I didn't know that. Do you know that kind of stuff? Moving it 3 pixels to the right changes the number of books that'll sell. I didn't know that, but they know that kind of stuff. And they're experts. So you hire experts to do that kind of thing, and your sales will pick up. But if you've got your market right, on top of that, you're promoting to the right people, you've got a great cover, you've got good copy in your Amazon book page and so forth, then your book's probably going to sell, or at least a certain amount. And if you're using it for marketing yourself, then the sales don't really matter. And you're looking to get that speaking engagement or get that TED Talk. Several of my authors have gotten many of those. One of my authors got $30 million of venture cap because he had a book that explained his credibility. He used it as part of his, I don't know what they call it, prospectus. part of the venture cap thing that he put out. And he started a company based on it. That was one of my first books. I was pretty proud of that.
This interview is sponsored by Newswire magazine. We celebrate the entrepreneurs and thought leaders shaping the future. Those who don't just adapt, but innovate, who inspire others to think bigger, lead boldly, and create lasting change. Only a select few are featured in Newswire magazine. And for those who earn a place on the cover, the opportunities are unmatched. Your story shared with a global audience, your achievements celebrated on national billboards, reaching millions. Every leader has a story. Every vision deserves a platform. Who will rise to the top? Stay tuned. You're witnessing greatness unfold.
Hey, welcome back to Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. We're on with Richard Lowe, the book king, or
The Writing King.
The Writing King. One of the things that I see, I talk to guests all the time. One of the common scams that I see with ghostwriters or so-called publishing companies that are not a publishing company, it's just somebody who's publishing on Amazon, KDP. The biggest thing that I've seen with people being taken advantage of this is by they're not buying their own ISBN, which is basically the serial number of your book. So they pay some company a ton of money, some publishing company, to publish the book. The publishing company buys the ISBN, has them sign some kind of a legal document, and now they own 100% of the rights to the book. And so they're making the Amazon royalties and they're making all the money off of it. You spend a ton of money, and now every book sold, these companies are stealing because they've bought their own ISBN. Because the company bought the ISBN instead of letting the actual author own the ISBN. What are some other common mistakes that you see made by some of your competitors?
Well, let me just correct that a little bit. It's not just the ISBN. The ISBN is just a number. It's also that they publish it under their own account, so you don't have access to it, and you sign the agreement. So web designers sometimes do that. Well, they'll publish it under their own hosting account. They don't give you the keys. So you fire the web designer, you don't have the keys anymore. And that's the same problem with the book. You don't have the keys to that KDP account. And you sign something, you don't have access to it anymore. Some other things, you have to be careful of the 419 scams. That's the advance fee scam. And that's where, I got hit by them. I didn't fall for them, fortunately, because I'm smart, but some people do. And that's where this was a ghostwriting client who came to me and said, I want to write a book, and I want to pay you tons of money, but I want to send you this amount for a deposit plus a little bit more that I want you to forward to a consultant who's going to help you out. Well, that forward to the consultant part got him my money, and the check would have bounced. So the deposit, it was actually the wire transfer would have bounced. It's all done by wire. And that's an advanced fee scam where they ask for money in advance, but it bounces. So they've already got the money, and you're pretty much dead in the water.
I've never heard of that one. That's a good one to share.
All the Nigerian scams are advanced fee scams. All the Nigerian king is going to give you $2 million. They then start asking for things. There's a off topic a little bit, but there's I love the name of it. It's called the pig butchering scam. And pig butchering is a romance scam and other type of scam where basically you're the pig and they start cutting off pieces of flesh, so to speak. So they'll just say, okay, I need, they start building this love relationship or this relationship for you where you really like them. And then they say, okay, I can get you the money, but my laptop just died, or I need money to fix the car. In a typical advanced fee scam, you might see, I need to clean the money, which means they actually need to, it was hiding in oil cans and they need to clean the oil off and all these things. So they start asking for more and more money. And then you fall into the sunk cost fallacy where you think, okay, I've already spent $1,000 on this, I'm going to spend a little more, and you're committing usually an illegal act. So that makes it even more likely you're going to do. So pig butchering is they basically slice up the pig until there's nothing left.
Wow.
I'm into cybersecurity, so, these things fascinate me, especially the name. I just love the name.
Yeah, that's funny.
But you also have to watch out for hybrid publishers that don't deliver or that don't deliver good. Read your contracts and actually send them to a lawyer. Send them to an attorney who's good at this stuff. Go to LegalZoom if you want. Have somebody look at it. I've used LegalZoom a few times. They're a little pricey, but hey, they're convenient.
Now, you had I had a friend she is the sweetest elderly lady, super sweet, just will give the shirt off her back to help absolutely anybody. And she had got a contract on, actually on a book publishing deal like that, where they'd sent her this crazy, ridiculous document. It's like an 18-page, double-sided 18-page document. So I asked her if she was taking pictures of it, asked me to read it. I said, could you get that in a digital format? So she sent that. I copied the whole thing in, and I was going, I don't know if it's a good deal or not, but I copied it all in, and I asked ChatGPT, said,
Yes.
you are an expert in, book marketing, book publishing. You're also a lawyer with a background in, looked up all the stuff that it should know. So prep ChatGPT and said, now review this contract. And it was actually a neighbor of hers that was offering this deal. So I'm like, okay, there's no reason this person shouldn't be trusted. Pasted the contract in there, and it started looking up not only the neighbor's name, the company name, the website,
Yep.
domain authority, the history, all that. And it pointed out well over a page worth of discrepancies and problems that I would have never caught. So, I mean, a lawyer, I'm sure, is a lot better. But if you get a contract that seems like it's too good to be true, maybe ask ChatGPT, just prime it correctly.
Yep.
And ask some questions. So,
or spend the money on LegalZoom. I mean, I can't. They're not expensive. They're going to be much. You're only going to buy a couple hours, probably 2-3 hours. Whatever you need to do, but have somebody. If it's a big contract, have somebody look at it unless you know what you're doing. Yeah, and of course, sometimes you run into the ghostwriter who simply the relationship doesn't work, and you need to correct that. If the relationship's not working, you need to correct it, and you correct it by being assertive. Like, you've been insulting me, or you've been doing this, or you've been doing that, because they're human, and some of them aren't necessarily great at human relations. You just said something that I don't like. And I always tell my clients, we both need to be the adults in the room. If you've got something you want to tell me, and I'll do the same, because we want this relationship to work. We don't want it to decay over time. So we're both adults. Let's act like adults,
We chatted about that a little bit before the show here, and the benefit of knowing whether it's a client or maybe a ghostwriter that you can work with, or the value in deciding, this is not, maybe this person's incredibly skilled, but this is not somebody I can get along with.
Right.
And the value in firing somebody who's not a good match for you. Have you ever had to fire a client? What were the main reasons for that?
I've fired several clients who simply turned out to be, I'll keep the expletives out of the way, but jerks. And it just was a relationship that just wasn't working. And I have a clause in my contract that says we can both exit at any time, no refunds, but we can exit till I've already done the work. We can, if you want to leave, because who wants to be in a toxic relationship on either side? Make sure you read your contract and you know the termination conditions, because you don't want something that says you're stuck. You want to be able to get out somehow. And, I've gotten rid of several clients that didn't turn out well. Haven't had the opposite happen. I'm a pretty good, easy guy to get along with.
Yeah, it seems like it. I like you so far. Seem like we're.
I'm not a total jerk.
Hey, when I was researching the Writing King, we do a ton of research on clients before the shows go live. When I was researching the Writing King, now is this correct? It says you've published over 100 books between what you've ghostwritten and published yourself.
115 or something. 52 ghostwritten and 63 of my own, and then 3 additional ones under pen names.
Wow, that's awesome.
In 11 years.
What would make you wow, that's crazy, man. What would make you decide to publish under a pen name instead of, or why would an author want to publish under a pen name instead of their own name?
Well, number one, it's not part of their brand. Number two, they have multiple genres that they want to publish in, like maybe Westerns and science fiction. You almost certainly want to have 2 different names for that, because you're building a brand in each one, which is why I published 2 of them in a pen name. And then one of them, you might have a book that's on a subject is controversial. Mine was political. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be associated with that, but I wanted to write it. So I published it under a pen name. It's many, many years ago, but there's lots of reasons to publish under pen names. The biggest one is branding. If you write fiction and nonfiction, you almost certainly want to separate the brand into 2 different names.
Yeah, I was just curious if that was something where you'd publish under a pen name in order to publish something that was either political book. For sure, I would not publish a political book under my personal name.
Not these days.
With any business. What are some lessons or maybe some advice you'd give somebody that is looking to talk about using a book for career change or career advancement? What lessons would you suggest there?
Well, let's say you're an exec and you want to pivot to a new career. You want to start your own business. You're a CIO and you want to be a CEO. Write that book. Whether you do it yourself or you hire a ghostwriter, write that book. Make it substantial, make it worth reading, a couple 100 pages, 150, 200 pages, and write it from the heart, write your experiences and things. This is where I would come in handy, but get a good cover and get that book out there and base your branding around it. This will position you above everybody else. When you go to a job interview and you say, okay, I want to be a CEO. Well, what's your criteria? What's your background? I say, well, here's my book. You immediately impress them. Here's the book about me. And here's what, in that book, part of your marketing is going to be to get little blurbs, promo from all these other authors, or not authors, peers and above who say you're great and the book's great and blah, blah, blah. So you're going to have all of this social proofing in addition to it that you put as part of the book. I read the book. It's great. This guy's been great to work with, blah, blah, blah. So you've already gone way above just giving them a resume or anything else. And it's going to help you a lot. If you go consulting route, it's going to help you a lot getting clients. If you going for that big position, it's going to help you a lot land that position. And it's part of the preparation phase. And if you're at the level of exec, it's not going to cost more than a new car. So, where are you going to spend it? On the new car, you're going to invest it in yourself. Invest it in yourself. Buy the new car later.
Well, and that's something about compounding returns is when you've invested in not only doing the time and work and financial, whether it's advertising or what it takes to build that up, that's something that sticks around with you forever. One of the things that I did, I've published a few books myself. My fourth book was actually the first one that I wrote, but I knew for a fact that one I had to make a serious impact. I wanted it to be a bestseller. So I wrote that book, got everything formatted, published, ready to go. I mean, not published, formatted, edited, everything ready to go. And then I wrote and published 3 additional short books, learning how how Amazon's KDP,
right,
how the algorithms work, what works best on marketing. We threw a ridiculous amount of money at advertising those books and marketing and A&B testing, trying to figure out what was going to work the best. And when the fourth book came out, we had built up a pretty substantial, actually through the Facebook page we used to market this. Right now we've got just over 430,000 active members.
Nice.
But I was publishing the book a chapter at a time, almost as blog posts on a website with a call to action, using search engine optimization. So somebody could find each chapter individually, scroll down, and then sign up for a marketing drip feed campaign that let them buy the book later. And it worked. My early on, I put out a Facebook post in the group. We had 786 downloads, ran a free free promo on Facebook. 786 downloads, made that an international bestseller.
Nice.
Because of the downloads. That being said, yes, you can do that as an individual. That was a couple of years of every single day as I'm running a telecommunications company doing this other stuff. Insane amount of hours where if I could go back now, it's nice to have the knowledge. I have no desire to be a author for the rest of my life publishing books. So to hire somebody like Richard Lowe, who's got the experience and the expertise and has made enough mistakes, had the successes, but hiring somebody like this who can do the work for you and you save 2 years of your life, what is that worth? And I guarantee if Richard published over 100 books now, that versus me publishing 4 and all the time and energy and stress and failure, and it probably cost me more in failure than it did if I'd have just hired you early on.
Let me have all the stress and failure and screaming at the screen because it's not working right and so forth. I'm trying to publish the darn book, and trying to get the words right and sound really good. And I'll do that screaming and yelling and stuff. I don't really, but except occasionally at KDP when it gives me an error that I don't understand.
I'm sure that doesn't happen often though with your background in tech and IT.
I fix it. Whatever's going on, I'll fix it.
What legacy do you hope to leave through ghostwriting?
That's an interesting question. That I helped a lot of people meet their goals. That's one of the reasons why I like ghostwriting. I like it because it's my passion to write, that I get to help people, honestly help people with their messaging and get out there. And of course, they can make an income. So the 3 of them merge together and they're great. That I help people. I like to help executives change their careers, get out of a position that they don't want to something they do want. Coaches is always fun because it elevates them to higher levels of coaching. Of course, legacy books for seniors, for example, is awesomely fun because they always have stories that are interesting. Children's books are great to write, seeing the look on kids' faces. Did I tell you the story of Doris? I don't think I did. That'll be a good one. Doris came to me, and she's an older lady in her 70s, and she had basically taken all of her dreams from when she's 17 and written them down, hand wrote them on paper. So she came to me with these boxes of paper and said, I want you to read all these and make a novel out of it. Like, okay, but your sister has to transcribe them. I'm not going to do that. Okay, fine. So she transcribed a lot of them, and I made a novel out of it, which is called Gators in the Soup. It's on Amazon. And
I saw that.
Yeah, and it is a fantasy of two gators who wander around the magical land of Florida. And it's not called Florida in the book, but that's what it is. And has magical adventures and a big battle at the end. And it's all fascinating. She loved it. Gave her the book at the end. Finally got the book in the mail, gave it to her. She said, with her daughter there, this is almost the feeling that I had when my daughter was first put in my hands when she was born.
That's awesome, man.
That's when I knew I was in the right profession.
That's awesome. How many books in was that?
That was probably 20 ghostwritten books in. Is about halfway where I am now.
I imagine you've done the amount of work to publish 20 books, to write, edit, publish, create covers, do the marketing, publish 20 books as somebody who's not a ghostwriter to decide whether or not you even like doing it. What an unbelievable, crazy amount of work. I mean, with me doing 4, I'm going, this is something I am not interested in doing again. But if you're watching this right now on Amazon Fire TV, or if you're reading this in Newswire magazine, scroll down, click the link at the bottom. There's a call to action on the Newswire magazine article. It'll have have some information down there, but you can schedule a discovery call. It's actually a free discovery call, right? Mm-hmm. With the Writing King.
Absolutely free.
So pause the show right now, scroll down, just get in contact. This is something where you'll have a great conversation. I think you'll like Richard, and whether or not you guys end up working together, you'll learn something.
Yeah, I'm happy to have those discovery calls. Schedule one, we can chat, and I'll help you. Sometimes people come to me without they're like, I just want to write a book. I'm not sure what the book's about. We can narrow that down. I'm actually offering now a book session where it's a few hours. It costs a few, money, but I have a like 90% off kind of thing where you come in and we spend those few hours and we get your book idea honed down to the point where you actually have something we can work with. And you can go on to ghostwriter or not at that point. If you're just an author, if you're not just an author, if you're an author who wants to go off and write your own book, this could be valuable for you just to get that idea brainstormed and get it down. So come, we can talk about that, whatever you want. Throw it on your mind.
That's absolutely awesome. Hey, Richard, give me one final thought for somebody who's watching the show right now on Amazon Fire TV.
Don't be the person who's sitting on the bed in the hospital after their whole life who regrets not doing something, whatever it is. And one big regret that people often have is they didn't write their book. And write the book yourself. Hire a ghostwriter. I'm also a book coach. Hire me to help you write it. Get it done so that you don't have that regret and so that you leave something for future generations, for your family, for your people who come after you, for other executives, for coaches. Leave something for other people. The feeling from that is indescribable. And the things that you can give, you've lived a whole life, whether you're 30 or whether you're 78, you've lived a whole life of experience that's different than anybody else's. And you might think, I don't have anything to say. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Write it, get it done, and do it now. Do it now. It's for business. It's a business expense. I'm not an accountant, not an attorney, but generally those things are write-offable if they're for business. So, half or part of it's subsidized by the government in that case. Why not do it? And it's not a big expense as far as businesses goes. And get it done because then you won't have that regret.
I appreciate you for being on the show today, Richard. This is awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a fun show. You're a great interviewer. It's been awesome.
Thanks for watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. This episode was designed to help you level up. See you next time.